What is up, my peepholes? This is your guy, Cly, and it's time for a little DIY. Today's video is going to be all about one of the more requested topics on my channel, and that's chainmail. I know I've already got a couple videos out there about it, from the chainmail play button to the chainmail fidget spinners, but these were more projects in progress and not so much a jumping off point for somebody new to the hobby. So think of today as a little bit of a chainmail 101. It's also a great excuse to get me working with larger lengths again, because I tend to stick with 20 gauge wire with an 1/8 of an inch internal diameter. And while I have no problems working with it, it's not exactly good to teach people with. Even worse is if I were to try something using the 26 gauge and toothpick internal diameter lengths. I honestly can't remember the internal diameter created by using a toothpick, so I'm just going to call it toothpick internal diameter. And let's go ahead and bring in a balls bottle cap for scale. Anyway, when planning out this project, you're going to need to think about what kind of wire you want to use. Myself, I'm using 16 gauge galvanized steel wire. As such, I will not be sawing it, I will not be grinding it, and if the spirit hit me to do so, I should not weld it. Because welded mail is a lot stronger than butted mail, which is what we're going to be using today. Now, the reason I say not to grind it, cut it with a saw, or weld it is because you do not want to be inhaling the zinc. It's fine to touch, no problem there, but you don't want to get particles or vapors into your lungs, because that will cause what are known as the zinc shakes. Learned that the hard way first time I worked with this stuff. So instead, you're going to want to snip it. That being said, do not buy your snips from Dollar Tree. Yeah. Would you believe I didn't actually try to cut the steel wire with these? This is what happens when you try to cut a zip tie with Dollar Tree snips. I made it through 1.5. First time I ever used these, actually. I had just taken it off the cardstock, and I was trying to free the wire. Actually, I was trying to cut the zip ties holding all 100 feet of this, because I originally had 100 feet for $4. Not a bad deal. Another reason why I'm using this stuff, and another reason why it's actually a lot of people's first metal. But I made it through the first zip tie. The second one was giving me a lot of issues, and yeah, don't use these. Instead, the best snips I have ever used are right here. This is an 8-inch mini bolt cutter. Picked this up at my local hardware store for around $8 many years ago, and I'm in love with it. In fact, I think I got a rebate on it. I don't even think I paid the full price. This is a lifesaver, and it's a great starter. There's plenty of other things that you could use as snips, but if you're going with steel, get something heavy duty that won't disintegrate. Other metals I've used for projects like this include copper, brass, and aluminum. And if you like these juggling balls, well, let me know in the comments down below, and I will think about making a tutorial on how to make these as well. Today we're sticking with the dice bag you saw in the title. Anyway, the way I get from wire to link is I take the wire, I take a metal rod in this case due to the fact that I'm not grinding it. Usually I stick with wood. And, well, either a power drill or some vice grip pliers. Either one will do you. Vice grip is cheaper but more manual labor intensive. Drill is faster, and actually if you get it like I did, a lot cheaper, because this was out of a dumpster. Big downsides with using a drill though. Yes, it's faster, but it's a bit more dangerous due to the fact that you're going to be dealing with some fast moving wire that's under tension, so you might get your finger caught, or release tension, so it'll spiral back and smack you. So wear glasses and gloves. These are my very ratty but much loved gloves. These have saved my hand many a time. Another issue, if you're going at a high speed using the drill, is you could have the wire wrap back on itself, which just makes all kinds of problems. Now, I'm not going to go and do the whole rigmarole of, spinning my coil, because it should be pretty straightforward. You affix your wire either using a vice grip around like so. I'm just going to pantomime it. Or you shove the rod into the chuck of the drill, stick your wire in there, and give it a spin. When you're done, you will be left with a nice coil like this. And just to show you how readily these bolt cutters slice through the wire, let me go ahead and just give that open. Let's see if I can just bring it up. It's not too poorly lit. And that easy. Very little force actually required. Though, if you feel like your hand might be prone to blisters like mine can sometimes be, your gloves, they will work as a great padding. Now, I'm going to finish snipping up this coil and add it to my bag of prepped links. Well, okay, not prepped, cut links. And I'll be right back after I've zoomed in and gotten things ready for the next stage. Okay, so I've gone ahead and closed these 8 links to start, but everything else I'm going to open and close as needed, because we're going to be using the 1 link at a time method versus any of the fancy speed weaving techniques, because while they look good on camera, they're not great for beginners and ultimately still take you just as much time. They just make it feel like it's going faster because you got all the more tedious parts out of the way first. So, grab your pliers. In this case, I'm grabbing a duckbill, or a snub-nosed duckbill on this hand, and some bent needle nose on my dominant hand, making sure none of your pliers have teeth. You don't want to mar your links, especially in the case of galvanized steel, not so much to avoid inhaling it, but to protect the protective zinc coating. Otherwise, over time, your links will rust or turn this lovely dark gray, which, in my opinion, actually is lovely. This is what happens with a juggling ball that you've had for about 10 years. Scratch that. Probably longer, probably 14 years to be honest. I've been weaving for quite a while. That's one of my first projects ever. So, to get things started, we're going to be doing a take on European 4-in-1, except we're going to be doing it in a bit of a circle to make the bottom of the bag first. Go ahead and open up your first link and drop in all 8 of the closed links from the beginning. Let's just get these on here. Don't worry, a lot of this is going to be done with fade ends. I just want to cover certain steps at least in their entirety before I skip ahead. Oop, and I dropped it. It's actually one of the reasons why I went with the bent nose. It gives me a little bit more control, while at the same time I can flip it over to get a much wider grip area. And there we go. All nice and started. Now you're going to want to set it down in such a way that all of the links lay in the same direction. It can be a bit tricky because naturally I want to make them all lay in separate directions. Good enough for now, because everything will make sense once we add the next 8 links. So basically, to do this properly, you want to take a link, open it up. Actually, I should bring the camera in a little bit tighter. There we go. Open it up, take 2 rings that you already have, and lock it in like so, making sure it actually lays in the opposite direction of the 2 that you're linking. Give it a nice close. And let's continue with the next link in the series. Let's see if I can bring that in. So as you can see, this link here is in both of these. You're going to want to take the second of the links that it's through and the one after it, and link those through. And I'm going to be continuing that around the circle, so I'll be back when that's done. And there we go. Now that I've brought the second row in, it does want to lay much flatter, so that's good. Of course, we're not stopping at just adding 8 links to this. Instead, this row is actually what's known as an expansion row. So I'm already throwing a couple of more advanced things at you right at the start, but it gets easier, don't worry. What you want to do is take a link and put it between 2 of the ones in the second row, but only hook it through a single link from the first row, like that. You're going to do this 8 times all the way around. I'll be right back when I'm done with that. And there we go. So far, the ring count is 1 center link, a row of 8, and a row of 16. So the next row is going to be 16 again. No expansion this time. We're saving that for row number 4. So row number 3 is just going to be done the same way I showed you with the second row minus the expansion links by taking 2 of the outer rings and linking them together, making sure when you're done that your new link falls in the opposite direction. So its top is pointing that way, the others are pointing that way. I'll be back when I've got all 16 of those in. I'm back and it's getting bigger. So I've added 16 links. It's time to add 16 more plus another 8 expansion links. So let me add the 16 first and then I will talk about the expansion links. And there we are. The next batch of 16 have been applied. And I'm getting to the point where I might need to zoom out so you can see everything. So for these expansion links, like I said, we're going to be using 8 yet again. Let me go ahead and grab. Just take your expansion link and hook it to a single one of the previous row. And now, instead of doing one between every single link like we did last time, you're going to take your expansion link, skip 2, and put the next one right there. You're going to do this for all 8. So let's just hook that on. I'll be right back when I've got that done. And there we go. We're up to 24 links. I think you might see the pattern forming where we have 1 normal row and 1 expansion row. Next one's going to be 1 normal row of 24 links. I'll be back after that's done. And there you go. I've got all 24 rings around the outside, and I'm going to call it here. I only want to hold a few dice sets in my bag, but if you want larger, what you would do next is add a row of 24 links plus 8 expansion rings, bringing you to a grand total of 32 with 3 links in between each expansion ring. And then you would do another row of 32 plus 8, bringing you to 40 with 4 rings in between each expansion ring. So on and so forth until you hit the size you want. However, since this is as wide as I'm going, what I'm going to do next is just add row upon row of 24 links, and eventually it'll fold back in on itself, making a nice bag. I'll be back when I'm done with that. And there you go. I went ahead and added 12 more rows of 24 links, which brings this to the perfect size to hold 4 dice sets, or one of my dice pools from Shadowrun. I am a dirty, dirty min-maxer. So, what we're left with is a really nice European 4-in-1 weave, which let's just bring it in closer, and there we go, autofocus. As you can see, I took the time to fully close all of my links, so despite the fact that it's snipped instead of saw cut, it's really nice and smooth, no snag ups at all. I could do this all day, to be honest. I'm gonna put that down. All that's left to do is add the closing flaps and the cord. To do one of the closing flaps, all I'm going to do is take 3 links, like these, stitch them together with 2 links, so 1, 2, just like every other stitch you've done. No expansion, no contraction, just 3 links, so there's one of them. Oh, come here. There we go. And through the front of one, through the front of the other. This is also a nice refresher because I really haven't done much close-up of the 4-in-1 like I should, but I've done enough that you can at least get the gist. And then I go behind and behind. There we have one of my closing flaps. Now I skip one of my links, go to my next 3, and do it all over again. So when I'm done, I should have 8 of these flaps. I will be back when that's done. All right, all of the flaps have been attached, and you totally did not see me accidentally run a link through 3 others instead of 2 in the last section. But if I did, hypothetically speaking, I did manage to catch it prior to it becoming a problem, so we're all good. All you need to do to finish up your bag now is to lace it up. So grab a piece of cordage, string, lacing, whatever you have at hand or would like to use. I'm going with 3mm waxed cotton cord. I just really love this stuff. I've got about 1.5 feet. I didn't do a proper measure. I just laced this up prior to this scene and made sure it gave me a proper knot and all that. And so just run it through the top link of all of your flaps. Now, some of you are probably wondering why I'm showing you this very basic step, and that's because of what I am about to do. Personally, I'm used to adding a little bit more personality to my projects, kind of like that. So while this is a really cool dice bag, I mean, chainmail is always cool, I want to add a little bit something extra to it. So what I'm going to do is hang a pendant from my cord. In this case, I'm going with Mjolnir, the hammer of Thor. Mainly because, A, I love Norse mythology, always have, always will. And B, I am a huge metalhead, with one of my favorite bands being Amon Amarth, which is a Viking melodic death metal band. And yes, melodic death metal is a thing, and yes, it's as awesome as you think it is. So, even if I didn't like Norse mythology, or if I didn't like metal, there's multiple reasons why this little guy is going on. Also, the reason I'm only using 1 cord versus the traditional 2 is because of the way I actually plan on closing it. There we go. Last bit in place. Let's just go ahead and remove a cat hair, because of course he shed all over this stuff. Bring it in, give it a knot. I'm going to have quite a bit extra on here when it's open, but that's just fine with me because, there we go, I like to bring it around and give it a knot like so. There we go. And now I have a nice little loop which I can use to hold my dice, and if I'm feeling extra fancy, I can just hang it from my belt using a carabiner with Mjolnir facing forward. I think that about covers it. I'm going to fill this up with dice and shoot my thumbnail picture in a moment. But if you like this video, go ahead and leave a like. If you didn't like this video or feel I could have done something better, leave a dislike. I don't mind. If you have any suggestions for future DIY projects, especially if they're chainmail, or you just want to say hello, leave a comment. I try to get back to everybody. If this is your first video on my channel and you want to see some more DIYs, I'll go ahead and pop a playlist up right about now-ish. If you're new and you want to see more content like this, well, feel free to subscribe. And of course, until next time, this is your guy Cly, signing off.